Now, moving on to, your journey as a motivational speaker, you are a top motivational speaker. You're a certified speaking professional. You were ranked number 6 by Global Gurus. And you began your speaking journey fairly early at 13 years of age, if I'm not mistaken. So you've had years of practice. Now, do you think anyone can become a great speaker? And what tips might you offer other leaders who are looking to be, better speakers, more inspirational, being able to influence others, Eddie?
Well, the answer to that is yes. I believe anyone can become a great speaker because speaking is a skill and skills can be taught. I started at 13 and that was not necessarily what I thought the goal was going to be, but it ended up being something that I continue to do. So a lot of the things that we get good at are just simply through repetition. And over time, we make adjustments and we pick up different skills along the way. And that was what I was able to do and benefit from. I would say for people who want to get better, there's usually 2 areas you have to look at. Is there a skill deficiency or is there a physical deficiency? For example, some people have a voice that they feel is too nasally. So there's some breathing mechanics. There's some issues with where you're pulling from with your diaphragm. So I direct them to people like my friend Roger Love, the #1 voice coach to the stars. But he also takes on everyday people like you and I, right? And he's just phenomenal at helping people get over any structural issues, physical issues with their body so that you can communicate tonally the proper way. Then you need to get into the messaging. Now, what are you going to say? So what are you going to say? I tell people ATD is a great organization that I belong to, the Association for Talent Development, in terms of learning how to put together structure, learning how to put together substance, right? Because everything is about instructional design or training, facilitation. The polishing for eloquence on the stage, that's where I say the National Speakers Association, and that's where I earned my certified speaking professional credential from, because they've set the standard for what it means in the industry, the professional speaking industry, to be a top speaker. And the skills that I learned there were very different than I practiced all my life, because it went beyond just a formal, here's how you give a polished, refined speech or public speaking. When you're talking about professional speaking and being a keynoter, now you're involving elements of leveraging a full stage, no longer behind a lectern as I did all my life. Now you're talking about how you pull in the audience uniquely. And that was face-to-face, in person. Now these days, you're talking about how you do this over a camera, over a virtual stage, right?
Right.
And finally, I'd probably say the skills I picked up, I think through coaching, I still use a lot, and through the international coaching community and International Coach Federation, as well as the International Institute for Facilitation, or INIFAC, where I sat on the board for 4 years, helping to craft the standards for facilitation around the globe. So on that board with some of the best in the world, truly those skill sets helped enhance what I do as a speaker.
And how do you find, Eddie, doing keynotes virtually versus in person? What have you had to modify?
You modify your energy, I think, because as a speaker, we are used to feeding off of this live audience, and that live audience giving us that feedback. And one of the things that happens is, #1, you're not even always seeing the whole audience. It's one thing to speak into this camera lens, right? But sometimes I can look down and at least see people's faces, where a lot of times you don't see the audience at all.
Right.
So it's not like, hey, when we go to a Zoom meeting, we at least even see our colleagues.
Yeah.
Some of these speeches that we're given online, you're not even seeing the audience. And so having to kind of put this in your own mind and cheer for yourself, to be able to kind of bring that to life. That's one of the biggest adjustments. And still feeling like, even though I can't see them, seeing them with your mind's eye and giving them that full speech as if you were there.
And do you feel you can have the same impact as you had in person, virtually?
Well, Shiyen, of course I have to say yes to that, because all my customers are watching this interview. I can't say this different. But the reality is, I think it's a different impact, right? Yeah. #1, I'm able to reach more people. So some of these I've given have been a little larger because it was virtual. Others have come, people have come that would not have gone because it was virtual, right? Because the price point was a little bit more affordable. So it's absolutely valuable to have this option to deliver it virtually. In terms of, I noticed, I gave a speech for BMW a couple of months ago, and I remember telling everybody, I miss this. It starts with the car ride to the airport, right? Just this one-on-one communication with another human being in the airport, conversations that happen in the lounge, the conversation that happens on the plane, that whole dynamic. And then when you get on site, just the buzz before you even go on stage, talking to people, warming up, and it's different. I mean, nothing replaces that. I miss that, and that is just, and that's where the relationships are built. Yeah. But online, I think you have the ability to still reach people, still have an impact. And I think that this is good news, bad news for us as speakers, because then the audiences, the customer sites, a lot of times will capture and keep the content, right? Mm-hmm. So now they're able to kind of leverage that a little bit more for their audience. As a speaker, that means you don't bring me back more, but so it's good news, bad news.